that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. So lovely earth can stay lovely still. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Energy Week with George Harvey, Tom Fennell, and guest Larry Sprague. And I will say the famous Tom Fennell, but indeed the equally famous, for different reasons, Larry Sprague, who is going to tell us about some very interesting things that will appear in an extra to this program that will, I think, appear on Channel 8. However, this is the news broadcast that we do every week and recorded on Thursday mornings. And we talk about the news that's come up on my blog, geoharvey.wordpress.com. I go there every day for 3 or 4 hours and put together a list of the events of the week, of the day, relating to energy and climate change. And every week, Tom and I talk about the ones that we find the most interesting from the previous week. So should we go? I think we should.
We can go. You're up.
Okay.
You're up there.
We have a picture there starting. The University of Guam, that doesn't look like the University of Guam there, does it? But, and the University of Alaska Fairbanks announced a broad partnership for climate change and energy generation. This took place in a collaborative energy workshop on the 7th Regional Island Sustainability Conference at Lot Hotel, Guam in Tumun. And that's from the Guam Daily Post.
Interesting backstory here.
Yeah.
The guy who's running the show here, who put this all together, is of Indian descent.
Okay.
He is a high executive with the University of Alaska.
Okay.
He's like deputy chancellor or something like
okay.
that. He grew up in Guam. Okay?
No
Yes.
kidding.
Now,
Wow.
why would a guy from Guam go to Alaska? You know, well, it didn't hit me right away. Guam is an American territory.
Yes.
He's an American citizen.
Yes.
So him going to Guam is no different from somebody from Vermont going to
Alaska. Yes,
Wow.
absolutely. And we have a
He's apparently a pretty bright guy too.
I would guess. Now we have a parallel here because what happens is Alaska is full of communities, believe it or not.
Is what?
Full of communities.
Yes. Yeah,
There
amazing, isn't
are
it?
communities all over Alaska, and they have electricity, believe it or not, and that electricity has to get to them, but they are so far apart that it is really expensive to put in transmission lines. So they're dependent very largely on all of them really, on locally generated power.
Which is diesel.
Very largely diesel,
Is it?
and there are a lot of communities in the outback that's the only choice they've had in the past. But now, of course, they can get wind power and even solar power, believe it or not, in Alaska.
Yeah, I can believe.
So this is...
Oh my God, that's the land of the midnight sun.
That's right. And which means you're probably best off with a tracker system.
Oh, absolutely.
Although
yeah.
that thing that we had a couple of weeks ago in Siberia was a fixed mount facing south. The result of this is that the problems of the Alaskan outback are very similar to the problems of islands.
The Marianas.
The Marianas, Guam is right there with you know, I can't think of the name of a single Alaskan community that's small. Fairbanks, except that Fairbanks is big.
They're all small.
Well, Fairbanks
By our
is.
standards.
Yeah, Fairbanks is not very big. You know, Alaska, it's a huge state, has a small population, and it's like each little town is like an island. So that's why they get together.
Yeah, and I've heard that Alaska is also feeling the impact of climate change quite significantly in certain areas.
Are they
They're
ever?
losing communities.
Yeah, they're losing communities.
Is
Yes.
that the issue?
Yeah. Our next item comes from Carbon Brief.
And let's get that one up here.
Okay, you want all of us up. The UK solar panels, you should be reading the titles for these things, Tom. That's your job.
I should be.
Yeah.
It's my job. Okay, this is the UK solar generation tops coal for the first time.
Yeah.
Solar tops coal in England.
Is that right?
Solar tops
Wow.
coal. The UK solar panels have generated more electricity than coal for a full day for the first time ever. Carbon Brief analysis shows on Saturday 9th April, sorry about that. Saturday, the 9th of April, solar generated 29 gigawatt hours of electricity, 4% of the total used for the day. Coal generated 21 gigawatt hours, and it was 3% of demand. This is from Carbon Brief.
It's interesting because this pattern was repeated the next day.
Yes.
Not quite the same numbers, but still.
But the next day wasn't the first day. So this is why this day is important.
Correct.
Now, is this a transition going on in England?
Boy, is it ever.
Is it part of the British commitment to reduce the amount of fossil
They are
fuel
closing
use?
down all of their coal plants.
They are.
Yes.
That's a huge transition.
However, we're talking about a government that wants to open unbelievably expensive nuclear power plants and pursue fracking with a vengeance.
There's crazy stuff going
I
on
see,
in England.
I see.
I mean, before this government got in power there, they were doing fine.
Yeah.
And now they're changing everything around. They're trying to outlaw onshore wind and crazy stuff going on in England.
Yeah.
Scotland's got their act together, though.
Yeah.
Scotland's doing a lot.
They're moving more aggressively toward a renewable economy.
More aggressively,
Much
much
so.
more aggressively. The UK government is saying we don't want it unless it involves big business, I think is basically their theme.
This was a very interesting article. There's a lot of graphs on it. There's very in-depth information.
Right.
So if you're watching this and you want to look into it further, click on your
The
blog.
blog is geoharvey.wordpress.com.
Because there's a lot of meat here.
Yep, this is from Thursday, April 14th, as is the next article, which is going to be a favorite of yours.
Well, I got just a little bit of a quick takeaway from here.
From
the
this one. Okay,
economics
go ahead.
of why this is happening here in the UK is because the economics of coal have deteriorated dramatically over the last 18 months.
Yes, well, they've
Okay,
done that.
Coal power plants are losing money,
Yeah,
big time,
All over the world.
heavily loss making, and the reason is low wholesale prices.
you know, this is an interesting thing because we've got a person running for president of the United States who might or might not be nominated for the Republican Party. I'm talking about Tom Cruise, who said, Ted Cruz, who said Tom Cruise, right? Who said, the United States is the Saudi Arabia of coal. We should be pursuing this. And it sounds so much like Tony Abbott a couple of years ago in Australia saying exactly the same thing.
Exactly the same thing.
It may be the Saudi Arabia of coal, but it's too expensive. And if it isn't too expensive, it's because you've ditched the environmental protections, which means you're destroying the water in Vermont and elsewhere. And elsewhere.
right.
Well, they don't mind because they aren't in Vermont.
Well,
Okay.
the next one here is Peabody Energy, not to be confused with Peabody Mass.
Yes, no relationship.
And they're filing for bankruptcy. So this is a biggie.
This is a big one.
This is the world's largest coal miner.
Yep,
Oh, no kidding. Is that right?
that's
Yeah,
right.
And they file for Chapter 11. Now, it only includes the U.S. properties.
Okay.
They got properties all over the world.
Some of which
So
are
the
in
U.S.
desperate trouble.
the U.S. entity is filing bankruptcy. The U.S. entity is filing
They're
bankruptcy.
filing bankruptcy.
Yeah, but their properties in Australia are in trouble.
They're in trouble, too.
And this is an article in Clean Technica. Peabody, I'm sorry, this is not Peabody, this is Peabody. Peabody Energy, the world's largest private sector coal miner, announced that it has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Its entire industry is reeling from low production and demand and facing an upsurge in both gas and renewable energy electricity generation. And I think I should point out the Dow Jones Coal Index. Most people have heard of the industrial index and possibly the utilities and so forth. The Dow Jones Coal Index consists of two companies after the other companies on the index have either gone out of business or been delisted because their stocks went below $1 a share and stayed there.
Peabody's stock's down to $2, I think, now.
And they are one
what it
of
was?
2 companies on that index.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know what the future of the Dow Jones Coal Index is.
I don't think Peabody knows either.
No. Okay.
It was interesting, a comment here by 350.org wasn't very complimentary. Peabody is crashing because the company was unwilling to change with the times. They doubled down on the dirtiest of all fossil fuels, and investors backed their bet as the world shifted toward renewable energy. They have consistently put profit over people, and now their profits have plummeted. Our world has no place for companies like Peabody.
Well, thank
And
you,
this is
350.org.
I mean, you wouldn't expect them to be praising Peabody.
No, I
But
wouldn't.
that's quite a heavy slam.
It is.
That's a pretty
It is.
heavy slam. Yeah.
And 350.org, is that Bill McKibben's group?
It is.
Yes, it is.
It is.
And is he a Vermonter?
Yes. Well, I think he is. He
see.
certainly lives in Vermont now. He's
I
been
see.
in Vermont for
Isn't he tied
quite
in
a
with,
while. Middlebury College.
Middlebury, yeah.
And they've taken the lead in, as I recall, in asking university
to the
to de-invest,
Yep,
disinvest.
Divest.
Divest,
Right.
is it? Divest from fossil fuels, is that correct?
That is correct,
Absolutely.
yes. Okay, our next item, we're up to Friday, April 15th, and we have a new picture for this.
Yeah, let me
And
get the picture up.
let's
here.
get the picture
this
up.
is an
The-
interesting picture here.
Yeah, this is from BBC News. What is it, Tom?
It's Lincolnshire
Lincolnshire.
to Denmark. Power
Yeah.
cable plan consultation starts.
Yes,
Now they're talking about almost a 500-mile cable
right.
from England to Denmark,
Right.
which is going to go right through the heart of a lot of offshore wind.
Yes.
And it's going to pick it up.
It's going to enable a lot of that and more offshore wind.
And they're talking two-way traffic between basically continental Europe and England here.
Yes, and there will be others too.
So they're getting ahead of
Now,
the game.
does that mean that Denmark is going to be a net exporter of energy from?
Denmark is already an exporter of a lot of renewable
Denmark has a
power.
lot of solar, a lot
Is that
of wind,
right?
I mean.
And is that the effort here? Is that as a result of the cable being put in? Does that mean they're going to be exporting it to England, or does that mean
They will
It's
be
gonna be both
exporting
ways.
it
They're
and
gonna-
importing it over the
it's gonna
same
be-
cable.
they're just making a
whichever,
bigger grid.
yeah, whichever one has more power at any given time. Remember, the Danes are exporting power to Germany. Well, they're exporting power through places like Schleswig-Holstein and what is the name of that Vorpommern?
What?
I forget the name of the state, but they're through a couple of states that are already producing more renewable power than they use.
Oh, in Germany.
In Germany, yeah.
I couldn't tell you which states. We've talked about it.
We have, yeah. I'm going to read this really quickly. Plans for a 472-mile electric cable between the UK and Denmark have gone out to public consultation. If approved, the $2.25 billion Viking link from Bicker Fen, Lincolnshire, which is, I think, what you were seeing there, to Revsing.
This is Bicker Fen right there. Yep.
Yep, Bicker Fen, would enable import and export of power from mainland Europe. Now, this is only one of a number of links they're going to have.
Huh.
And they have
yeah.
talked about a
Yeah.
link that's even longer from between the UK and Iceland, which I think would be basically a one-way thing because Iceland's got more power than it needs.
I did some research here. I didn't know where Lincolnshire was. And if you can picture England north to south, this is in the middle, but on the east coast.
Yeah.
On the East Coast?
Yep.
Okay.
And a fen. I didn't know what a fen was. This is Bicker
All you
Fen.
gotta do is know something about the history of Boston, and you know what a fen is.
Well, the next town from Bicker is Boston.
Oh, goody! I'm
that
talking
right?
about Boston, Massachusetts. In the there's a place called Fenway Park. Remember?
Yeah, right. Well, a fen is like a swamp that's been drained.
Yeah.
And all of this land here is very rich land, but it used to be all swampland.
Yep.
And about 300 years ago, they drained it.
Yep.
So it's now called the Fens.
Yep.
Fenway, I never thought of that. Fenway Park, of course.
Yes. The Daily
Bingo.
Nonpareil is the next piece, source of the next piece about MidAmerican. You got a title
Let
on
me
that?
get this guy up here.
You might put
3.6
us on instead of,
Huh?
you
Yeah,
might put
put
us
you
on.
guys up
Yeah,
there.
there you go.
$3.6 billion turbine growth positions Iowa for a wind energy landmark.
Wow. MidAmerican, which is Warren
Division
Buffett.
of Berkshire Hathaway, by the way.
Yes, that's right. MidAmerican Energy Company based in Des Moines. Did I pronounce that right?
Des Moines.
Looks okay to me.
Yeah, announced plans to spend $3.6 billion on a wind turbine operation that would generate enough energy to power about 800,000 Iowa homes. And officials called the effort. I'm going to have to deal with this. This silly thing comes up. Okay, officials called the effort the largest economic development in the state's history.
This is a biggie.
It is.
And this particular company, MidAmerican, has their plans to be someday deliver 100% renewable energy to our customers.
Yes.
Which is in Des Moines.
Des Moines, that's right.
And is this success by virtue of some of the strategies and the policies that the state of Iowa has implemented regarding renewable
Well,
energy?
clearly, Iowa has got to have policies that are amenable to wind power and
I
renewable
know, I know there's some
Yeah.
pushback in certain
They got a
other
lot of
states
wind.
about this.
There are a lot of states that have pushback and have not developed their wind
Right.
power, Wisconsin being one. And they've got, a lot of wind in Wisconsin. They don't develop it. And as near as I can tell, the reason they don't develop it is because the whole idea is offensive to big businesses who are funding big politicians. And we will see next week, by the way, a thing about an article about that, which came out today, but it's not in today's news. And by the way, as I think about it, that means we should say something about news of today in this program, because it's going to be important to some people, and that is that the Kidder Morgan pipeline has been abandoned.
Yes, I just heard that yesterday.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's been abandoned.
So that puts out the Vernon project.
Well, there could be a different Vernon project, but it's going to have to be a different Vernon project. It's not going to be natural gas coming through that pipeline.
Exactly.
This is the Vernon project up here in Vermont?
Yes,
There is a group that's trying to put together a natural gas plant in Vernon to take advantage of the infrastructure that's already there.
From the nuclear
From
facility?
the
Yeah.
nuclear.
Ah, I see. Interesting.
And
And were they
there's-
relying on this pipeline as a...
It's-
Well, they were
As a-
considering it. The problem, they were relying on it for a plan of having a natural gas plant.
I see.
But, it appears that they're going to have
Well, there
to
was
think
some
about something
significant
different.
opposition to this pipeline, and also there
All
wasn't.
around
It didn't seem to be.
Massachusetts.
It didn't reach the subscription level that the company was expecting either.
That's
from
right.
What I understand,
That's
as far
right.
as people committing to using the power.
Yep.
Well, that's sort of deceptive.
Is it?
I mean, they're trying to tell everybody this was to provide gas to Massachusetts.
Yes.
It's really about export.
Which is why it was going. Where was it? Where was the
Well,
terminal?
this particular
Drake
line
it.
was going to Drake at Mass.
Yeah.
But Drake at Mass connects to a line that
That-
goes to an island off of New Hampshire coast.
They can't use all that gas on that island.
Well, it just happens to be facilities on that island to download or offload
Yeah.
gas from Europe.
Yes.
But now the market has changed, and it doesn't take much to take an offloading facility and turning it into an onloading facility.
Yes.
I see.
Yep. We should go on. Our next item is from Platts. What is that, Tom?
This one is from,
Entergy.
oh, I'm jumping over one. Yep, I'm jumping. Entergy to permanently shut the 728 megawatt Pilgrim nuclear reactor in Plymouth, Mass.
Oh, really?
In 2019.
Wow.
Yep. They're going to refuel it once, and then they're going to shut it down. Entergy has been considering shutting the unit as early as the spring of 2017, but the unit is because the unit is losing about $40 million a year, but it has power contracts through May 31st, 2019. So they're not keeping it open because of some benefit to the customers. They're keeping it open because they don't want to get sued.
Bought into contracts.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And they wisely avoided the last round of contract bidding This stuff wholesale was going for 97 hundredths of a dollar, 97 hundredths of a cent, almost a penny a kilowatt hour.
Under a penny a kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
So that way,
actual
this is what
price
changes.
was $7.03 for a kilowatt month.
So this really changes the economics of nuclear energy, doesn't it?
Well, the economics of nuclear energy have been extremely bad
I
for
see.
several years, and they're just getting worse.
I see.
And if you look at the Hinkley plant in Somerset in England, you can see this because in order to attract investment, they had to have a price guarantee of something like $140 per megawatt hour. It's my recollection. This is a wholesale price.
Yeah, this is
This
it's
is
ridiculously high. This is going for a penny.
yeah, and what they're saying is they're not going to build that plant unless they get double the normal wholesale price.
For about 30 years.
For 35 years. It's a guarantee for 35 years. And after the government agreed to that, they went out looking for backers, and they found nobody in the UK. They went to Europe. They found nobody in Europe. They finally found backers in China.
France.
Yeah, well, EDF was the it was a builder.
They're the builder.
But they couldn't find
weren't
backers
investing.
outside of China. So
Yeah,
they
right, the
took
Chinese-
Chinese investment. And now EDF is saying, I'm not so sure that we want to build this thing. It looks like it's going to lose money. Lose money?
not
At
what
double
we're
the
here for.
normal rate? Oh,
That's not
man.
what we're here for.
Okay.
The interesting thing here about Entergy's, I don't know what it's going to do for its stock, but they closed Yankee.
Yes.
They're closing Fitzpatrick in New York.
Right.
They're going to close this one.
Yes.
What do they got left?
Well, they've got a lot left. They really do. You know what? Entergy is actually investing in solar.
I believe that.
Yeah, so do I.
Somebody down here must have some sense.
Well, a couple of years ago, they said they knew how to make money on nuclear and coal and gas, and that's what they were going to stick with.
What do they wanna do?
So we've got one coming up here from
got a pretty one
CNN.
coming up
This is Saturday, April 16th. It's pretty, isn't it?
That's the Franz Josef Fjord
Yeah,
in Greenland.
right. Greenland's massive ice sheet has started its annual summer melt earlier this year than ever before, according to stunned scientists who said they had to recheck their calculations before releasing the results. The previous earliest dates were all in May.
Now, Greenland has the world's second largest ice sheet.
Yep,
The largest one is in Antarctica,
right.
okay, which makes sense.
Yep.
And in this particular case, it's a little bit deceptive. It said nearly 12% of Greenland's ice saw some melting. Well, it didn't all melt.
No.
Just a little bit.
That
for
just
them to
means
include it here.
you've got a mile-high pile of ice and snow,
Yeah.
and the top
Millimeter.
millimeter is melting. So it doesn't
But it's
mean
still scary.
It is scary because it's so early.
That's a pretty picture, too.
Isn't it a pretty picture? That's the sun coming up on the Franz Josef Fjord. And I probably pronounced that wrong, but I don't pretend to be able to pronounce anything right, unless it's in English or Welsh.
Too far off, right? Joseph Fjord can't be too far off.
Well, I did it for as though it were German, but I can pronounce German, but this is not German. This is okay.
If this entire Greenland ice sheet melts,
Yes.
which it's not likely to do in the next 2 weeks,
No.
the sea levels around the world could rise by 20 feet.
Yes, and you know what that'll do?
If this thing all goes,
Yeah.
and that ain't going to happen in the next
Right, but
couple of
that's-
years.
It's not going to happen in the next couple of decades, actually. But
Probably. Well, I hope not.
yeah, it probably won't happen in the 21st century, but we'll just have to see how it all goes. But that would make commuting to work in Manhattan kind of difficult.
Yes,
I
it
would
would.
think.
Okay, our next item is from the BBC, and we've got another picture for that one.
Yeah, let me get that picture up here.
That, we're talking about fracking. I don't think these are fracking wells, but they might be. I don't know.
Well, this is North Dakota.
Yeah,
So North Dakota was fracking.
North Dakota's got fracking, but it's also got stuff that's not fracking.
Well,
Its economy has really
I'll let you-
changed.
I'll let you.
It's changed radically in the last 18 months to 2 years.
Yeah, has
If
it
you
ever?
can read the caption there. It says, many of those who came here to work in North Dakota's oil industry have now gone home.
Yep.
Yes.
And the blurb I've got here is, with the development of fracking, former backwater of Williston, North Dakota, was transformed into the unofficial capital of the energy renaissance. Its economic growth was staggering. They even got fast food joints moving into town. Now many workers have packed their bags and gone home. Williston has become a ghost town.
We've talked about this already in the past.
You know, this kind of thing happening.
This is big time, really.
Yeah,
I
this
mean,
is a
these were
serious
real
problem.
move towns, and now they're almost ghost
Yeah,
towns.
Yeah.
This is a serious problem for the people. It's a serious problem for the local businesses, and it's because the price of oil is low. It's just a big problem.
I had
Well, we were
someone-
talking about that this morning, is regarding the idea about using biomass here in Vermont.
Yes.
And how there were projects that are on the docket for a lot of different places here that are no longer as economically viable as they once were, because the price
Right.
of oil is where it is.
Right, but the price of oil will not stay where it is.
That's for sure.
One thing we know, there's two things we know. One is the weather will change, and the other is the price of oil will change.
Bingo.
Yeah. And I don't know which one changes faster. I know the weather changes from day to day, but you know, the price of oil can change.
I did read something in this article, which I didn't read the numbers, but at the height of its drilling here, there was 250 or so companies drilling. Now they're down to about 30.
Yeah,
kidding.
and the projections are that a third of the oil companies in the United States will go out of business this year. So
Wow.
this is a serious problem. That's
Sell
from the
your stock,
BBC.
folks.
Well, you know, really, I would not own stock in any kind of fossil fuel. I don't care what it is. I wouldn't own stock in it, and that includes gas. I wouldn't be there. And it's not a matter of moral objection to what they're doing, although that would be sufficient for me. It's also a matter of the fact that these things are so unstable. You know, I've watched the movie The Big Short. Have you seen that?
No.
Oh, you've got to
We
see it.
keep talking about it.
Well, I've watched it several times because I got a DVD. The day it was available, that DVD was shipped to me. And I've watched it several times, and it's just stunning what happens in the financial world. Well, what's going on in the world of energy reminds me very much of what was going on there, except that it's more out in the open. People are actually seeing what's happening. And this is the reason why the oil and gas index, Dow Jones Oil and Gas Index, is so low, and the coal index is about 3% of what it was 8 years ago. The oil and gas index, the last time I looked, was about down about 45% from last year. I think it's probably higher than that now because
Well,
the price of
demand is
oil. Well, the price of oil has gone up in the last few weeks.
Yeah, but
Not much, but
not
it has
by
gone.
much.
Yeah.
But still, the demand is up.
And OPEC
Nobody's
has
buying it.
failed to put anything together in terms of an agreement. So, you know, and the price of oil is absolutely artificial. It's something that somebody somewhere in the Saudi oil ministry or somewhere else has said, this is the price that we're going to look for.
Yeah.
We're just going to pump as much as we can until we hit that price. Anyway, we should probably move on.
I think so.
Okay, our next item is from SF Gate.
Enron Redux. Redux.
That's what it is.
Enron is back again under a different name here.
15
This
years.
time it's Shell.
Okay.
Shell has built California in the energy crisis.
Oh my gosh.
This was found out by a judge. I mean, this is real
This
now.
is the
Judge has decided.
15 years after blackout swept the state, a federal energy regulatory commission judge has found that a division of Shell Oil engaged in fraud and market manipulation during the California energy crisis. The tentative decision holds Shell and Iberdrola liable for $1.1 billion.
Well, this article here it says that the lawyers have been pursuing Shell on this since 2002.
Well,
And
it
they
takes
finally
time.
got a judge to find that they got something going.
Yeah.
They mention one scheme here. They call it ricochet, okay? Otherwise known as megawatt laundering. These guys are brilliant. They're buying electricity within California to ship to a destination outside of the state, which they never do. While simultaneously selling the same power back into the state's market at a higher price.
Well, you know, this is a lot like what the coal industry has been doing, where they produce a company and they sell the coal to the company, which marks it up, and then that company sells it back again so they can sell it to somebody else.
Something like
And the result of that is they've got around laws that say, well, if you're going to mine coal on government land, you've got to restrict your markup on it to a certain number, and they're just, you know, playing games with this stuff.
So they're living up by that agreement in the first transaction.
Yeah.
But the second transaction is free to do whatever they want to.
That's right. And you know,
I mean, how the money rolls in.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? And who pays for this? Well, you know, again, getting back to The Big Short, whenever there's a problem, there's two people who pay for it. One is poor people, and the other is immigrants.
Bingo.
Yeah. Okay, so we are up to the Sunday, the 17th of April.
Yeah, we got a nice picture.
We got a pretty picture here of a loon on a nest in Maine.
Wow.
And this is from the Barry Montpelier Times Argus. Got a title, Tom?
A great northern loon on a nest in Maine. It's the
Oh,
title of
wow,
the
it's the
picture.
same title as the picture. I had forgotten. Last summer, researchers, this is last summer, found the first case ever of a loon that had dropped dead of Avian malaria in New England on the Umbagog Lake. You know, this reminds me of that story about the frog. I'll get to that.
On Lake Umbagog, in New Hampshire.
On the border of New Hampshire and Maine. Yes. Other birds in the area are infected, in fact, more than 10% of them. With climate change, the parasite is moving north.
That's the problem.
That's the
A
problem.
parasite that wasn't able to live here because of the weather
All of a sudden.
is now finding out it can.
Yeah, and Lyme disease being another one. You know,
Absolutely.
Lyme disease exists in Vermont for one reason, and that's climate change, which permits the ticks to move north. And the reason for that is because the change in temperature, although people don't usually notice it, the big change is in the number of the coldest temperature and the coldest night. And that night, that temperature is what kills the ticks.
And that isn't happening.
And it isn't happening
That's
because it's about
impacting the moose population.
Oh, yeah.
significantly in certain states.
10%.
Minnesota and New Hampshire, unfortunately, is
There's a
experiencing
lot
it as
of
well.
second-order consequences
Oh, yeah.
that are taking so
Well,
long to happen, we don't even notice it. Like the forests are migrating.
Yeah, but the moose are not migrating
not.
as fast as the ticks are.
That's it, yep.
And the moose never lived in places where the ticks thrived, and so they don't know how to get rid of them. The white-tailed deer clean the ticks off, but the moose don't know how.
That's so.
And so the ticks will actually kill the moose. But on top of that, even if they don't kill the moose, they will give the moose Lyme disease. So, you know,
A lot of bad things happening we don't even notice. It
That's
happens
right.
Slowly and behind closed doors, you might say.
That's right. That's right. The story of the frog is we are really missing opportunities to do great things with the English language. You walk down to a pond and you see this little green guy hopping along and you say, there's a frog. The opportunity that you've got that you're missing is to say, there, folks, is a frog. Look. Okay, let's move on
I think
to the Q Costa Rica news. What do you got on this one? This is Monday,
picture.
April 18th. Sorry, I've got to move away from
I've
that.
got a picture here. Give me a picture.
Give you a picture.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
This is Costa Rica. Looks like.
Are these existing
Looks
wind
like
turbines, or is
Yeah,
this
these are at Santa Ana, Costa Rica, which I think it says right on the caption.
Costa Rica wind turbines.
Yeah, there you go. So, what do you got there for a title?
That's it. Santa Ana, Costa.
Oh, really? That's the title of the
That's the only title I have.
Wow. Okay.
I might have blown it this time.
Costa Rica got 97.14% of its electricity from renewable sources in the first quarter of the year, according to the National Energy Control Center. Hydroelectric produced 65.2%, followed by wind with 15.6%, geothermal with 13.7%, and energy from solar and other renewable sources.
They have a lot of hydro there.
They do.
They've had it for a long time.
Even so, they're getting a third of their power from other renewable resources.
Oh yeah.
Which they had been getting that power from oil, non-renewables.
They're down to less than 3% non-renewables.
Yeah, and they did all of last year. It was less than 3%. So this is an ongoing trend.
Well, it makes sense.
Isn't there some big? This is a big issue in Vermont now here about hydro.
Hydro is a big issue in Vermont.
And a company that owns the hydro along the Connecticut River is going to sell it.
TransCanada.
Yeah. Yep, we've talked about that.
And the state of Vermont is considering potentially.
They had a chance to buy it at dirt cheap prices.
Is that right?
And Douglas, I guess, was governor, and he didn't want to be called a communist. That was his own words.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, he did study it, and they weren't competitive.
So now they're back on the back on the
map. But thank you, Governor Douglas. We are going to pay a higher price, or we're going to pass it up.
Or is there a consensus in the state about what?
Most people I know would prefer.
Something new has been added. Okay, the environmental people have taken a look at the environmental impact of these dams.
Yes.
And they're saying, well, we're going to hold the new owner, whoever that is, feet to the fire to make sure that they're not scouring the riverbanks. Because what this company was doing was when price of energy was high, they were running these things full bore.
Okay.
And when price of energy was low, they were saving the energy.
Okay.
And this particular sequence of events wreaks havoc with the riverbanks.
Oh, interesting.
So, if we're going to have them, we're going to have them as standard baseload power sources. I don't object to that. It makes sense. But,
especially if the state's running them.
Yes.
They're not looking to make a profit. They're looking to serve the people.
Right.
And if we got a good, steady source of baseline power.
Okay, our next one comes from International Business Times. You got this one, Tom?
Yes, this is climate change. The shift from fossil fuels can happen in just 10 years.
Yep, it sure can. The world can wean itself from fossil fuels in as little as 1 decade with effort. Europe moved from wood to coal in a period of 96 to 160 years. Electricity took 47 to 69 years to become mainstream, but Ontario completed a shift from coal to other sources renewable sources between 2003 and 2014. And
10 years.
The person who figured this out was a guy I've been following for probably 7 years, named Benjamin Sovacool, who was a professor at the University of Singapore when I first came across him. He became an adjunct professor at the Vermont Law School, and now he's moved on from that and is the head of a big renewable commission in Denmark, believe it or not. So.
Okay.
Yep.
If a guy can move from Guam to Alaska.
Why not? I could move to Denmark and I don't even speak Danish. Okay, our next item is from the BBC.
Oil meeting is aiming to cap output, but it ends without agreement.
A meeting of the world's leading oil exporters to discuss capping production has ended without agreement. Members wanted a deal that would freeze output and help stem the plunge in crude prices over the last 18 months, but they concluded that they need more time to consult.
What does that mean?
It means they're
not going to do it.
Yeah, it means
conspire.
Well, it might be.
Well, it means they're looking for their own interests, and Iran has just come online with some.
It means
they've been deprived of the world market for years. So I don't see them about to change their tune and all of a sudden agree to.
The Saudis don't want to raise the price because it'll benefit the Iranians and not them.
Exactly.
You know, yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's kind of ridiculous, isn't it?
It's another weapon.
It is a
Some
weapon,
ways.
and it's a reason why we shouldn't be involved in that kind of thing. We've got to get away from fossil fuels.
Absolutely.
We got about 20 minutes, Tom. I think we should
Let's
continue
move on.
our action.
Well, we're running up to Tuesday already, so
we are indeed.
We're getting there.
And here is one of my favorite pictures.
Let's get that picture up.
Let's get that up.
Bingo.
Yeah, this is a very cool technology here.
This is not exactly what I would call a cool picture. What does it say, Tom?
The battery system in Salinas would consist of about 6,400 Avian batteries.
All right, you're not reading the title of the thing, you're reading the title of the picture.
Yes, exactly. I got that down here too. Well, I'll finish reading that.
Okay,
because
go ahead.
Each one occupies slightly more than 1 square foot of floor space. And you have some of these batteries.
I have
don't
2 of these things in my kitchen right now.
you? Okay, so the title of the article is 1.25 megawatt hour battery. That's a big battery.
That's a big battery.
For a Puerto Rican solar power plant.
Yeah.
Now you got it.
Okay, a 1.25 megawatt hour Avian aqueous hybrid ion battery has just been commissioned to support a 16 megawatt Puerto Rican solar power installation. The 16 megawatt solar power plant is located in Salinas, and the Avian battery will generate 100% of the electricity used to operate it at night.
That's got me wondering, how much do they need to operate it at night?
Not much. But, you know, I mean, we're talking about a community in we're talking about the output of a solar plant. And basically what we're saying is the solar plant's going to provide solar power in the daytime and battery power at night.
It's going to be self-sufficient.
It's going to be self-sufficient.
That
makes sense.
That does make sense.
This article has appeared in Clean Technica. These batteries, by the way, they don't gas. They don't off gas, which is why I can have one in my kitchen.
So they're certified to be within a dwelling.
That's right. And I'm thinking maybe I want to put them in my pantry. Maybe I want to put them in a closet. I don't know. I would never do that with lead acid batteries. I mean, that would be the kiss of death. I mean, lead acid batteries give off hydrogen, and when that builds up, a little spark, and you got an explosion.
Bingo.
These batteries have electrolyte, which is sodium sulfate, which is
Basically
not
salt water.
salt water. It is not sodium sulfide, which is corrosive and smelly. This is sodium sulfate, which is kind of like table salt.
Non-toxic.
Non-toxic.
Non-combustible.
The electrodes are carbon on the one hand, and on the other hand, magnesium oxide, also known as milk of magnesia. Actually, to be truthful, it's not the same as milk of magnesia, but it's pretty close. It's the same kind of thing. If you had one of these things, this is a 13 inches square, about 40 inches tall, weighs about 260 pounds. If you had one in your yard and it got run over by a bulldozer, it would not be an environmental disaster. So it's a really interesting technology. That battery is 2.6 kilowatt hours, and you
What's it worth?
You can run it down to 0 without damaging it. This makes it approximately the equivalent of 5+ kilowatt hours of lead acid batteries. They cost me a little less than $1,200 each.
Okay.
This is my inheritance money going out the door. Man.
Well, we're seeing, and we've talked about it on the show a lot, we're seeing a lot of progress.
A lot of progress.
In storage technology.
Yeah, another one, of course, is the one that we talk about called the flow battery. Wonderful system. That's something you should look into, Larry.
Okay.
Flow battery. There's a company called Emergy in California.
Okay, we need to talk about. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The electrolyte flows from one side to the other.
And it's 2 electrolytes. There's no, it's just how simple can you get?
By the size of your reservoir.
And the thing can
Which could be a lake.
Yeah. And the thing can, there's nothing built into it that says this thing is going to break down after a certain period of time, which is also true of these Avian batteries.
And there's other schemes out there. I mean,
There's
we got
lots.
Pump storage has been around for a long time.
Pump storage.
There's a new one, new to me anyhow, where they got railroad cars that are running uphill.
Yeah.
When the power's cheap,
And
and run downhill to generate electricity when the power's expensive.
We talked about that a couple of weeks ago, a 50 megawatt hour plant that was out west.
Railroad cars.
Yeah.
Specially built railroad cars.
Specially built railroad cars. Yeah. We should keep going. That was in Clean
Moving
Technica,
right along.
and our next one is also Clean Technica. What do you got for that?
Petroleum industry climate deceit
Oh, man.
started even earlier than we thought.
Yeah, this is really
This is
mind-boggling.
conspiracy theory, man.
It's not conspiracy theory because it's
It's
not a
conspiracy
conspiracy.
reality.
It's not a conspiracy. It has been found out. It was a conspiracy.
conspiracy, isn't it?
It was a conspiracy. Now it's a found out conspiracy. Conspiracy implies secret. The Washington-based Center for International Environmental Law says it can show the petroleum industry has been obscuring data on climate change for 70 years.
Oh, they wouldn't do a thing like
Oh, no. By combing through documents, it traced the industry's coordinated deception to a meeting that took place in Los Angeles in 1946. They knew about it.
Huh.
And they've been hiding it for 70 years.
As this article said, they've been shaping science to shape public opinion.
Man, I'll tell you, this is it's just mind-blowing to think. And we've got people running for president saying this is real. The climate change is not happening.
There's a sentence here that says it all. These fudged scientific results have been used to promote public skepticism of environmental science and environmental regulations.
Yeah.
The industry considered hasty. Oh, the regulations are ones the industry considered hasty, costly, and potentially unnecessary, despite the clear but suppressed evidence to the contrary.
Yeah. Our next item comes from Think Progress, and it has to do with the Dutch.
Let's pull this guy up. Okay, the Netherlands could soon ban the sale of non-electric cars. Now,
Yeah.
this is a big one.
Ban
Really?
the sale. The lower house of the Dutch parliament passed a motion that would ban sales of non-electric cars by 2025. The motion still needs to pass the Senate to become binding. If it does, it would mean that anyone in the country looking to buy a new car would have to buy electric.
And they won't even allow hybrids.
And what is the situation in Holland regarding their ability to recharge all those batteries of those cars
They got offshore
from
wind,
renewable?
too.
From
They've got
renewables? I think-
offshore wind, and they've also got cables going into Norway,
Norway,
Okay.
which has a lot of hydro.
Denmark.
I see.
They've got landlines going to Germany, and I
well
would
positioned.
imagine they've
I'm just
probably
curious,
got
because one of the
lines going to
arguments
France.
about the transition to a more electric vehicle mode of transport is the idea
Is the
that when you plug in, you use coal
Okay.
to recharge the batteries, and therefore the environmental benefits that you're looking for may not, in fact, materialize.
Yeah, that's fact.
Well,
that's changed.
that can
No, no,
happen.
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
Yeah,
asking.
That's changing.
that can happen, but the Dutch, they don't have a lot of their own land-based renewable infrastructure, but
I see.
they're getting it from all over.
I see. So they're interconnected with the renewable
Absolutely, they are.
grid that's there.
Yep.
Okay.
Our next item is from Tuesday, and what is that?
This
April
is,
20th.
The Sandbank Substation. I got to put a picture
I
up
put
here.
this in. This is from Renews, and I put this in just so Tom could see the picture.
Let me see. Sandbank Substation?
Yep.
Now, what we're looking at there is the Sandbank Substation. That's that thing with the green bullseye on it.
Now, where is this?
This is in
Alberg.
German North Sea.
I see.
Yeah.
Blot Industries has loaded the offshore substation for the 288 megawatt Sandbank offshore wind farm in the German North Sea. The substation and its jacket foundation are in Aalborg on a barge AMT Commander, ready to sail to the construction site.
I see. This is a staging area.
This is
Yeah, this
90.
is get ready to ship.
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
It's already done. They're getting ready
Now,
to ship. it.
this is interesting because you can see that yellow and what color is that? Kind of a light.
Like blue.
Bluish.
The tower.
The tower there on the right. I'm very slightly colorblind, so sometimes I'll say something is blue and somebody will say what. But anyway, you can see on the bottom of that 4 things connected to it. Those are jacking points.
Is that what they are?
Yeah. So they can sit on the bottom and make that thing straight, and then that will go in. I would imagine the orangish part of it is scheduled to be above the water line and the rest of it below. I don't know. But to the left of that, in the middle of the picture, slightly below the center of the picture, is the substation, which is probably, what do you think, Tom, about 7 stories tall?
No kidding.
It's at least 5.
Yeah, these things are
If you want to
big.
visualize what it is, go down to Yankee, and you'll see just north of the power plant where it was, whole bunch of towers and transmission lines and
Yep.
all sorts of stuff. That is a substation.
Yep.
And what they've basically done is adapt that same technology to being able to take it out to sea.
They've got it packaged
That's
in
what's
a
going on
thing
here.
here. Yeah, they've got
So
it packaged.
all that stuff is in this little box here.
Right.
It's all sitting on a barge. And I'm looking at those yellow cylinders on the left. And I'm guessing that they are the bases for turbines.
I think that's probably right.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
look like
Okay, so
silos.
this
don't
is the.
They look like silos. But if you want to see how big this thing is, there's those little bitty things along the edge of the road there. Those are trucks and cars.
they? Wow.
You know, this thing is
is
really
This is
big.
huge. This
yeah.
is huge.
Size of
And this
the
is
size of
where is this?
Barton
Where is this installation going?
It's going into the North Sea.
I see.
Off the German coast.
Well,
Yeah.
what's going on in the North Sea? There's an awful lot of wind turbines going on. And
Yeah.
the Dutch, the Danes.
Everybody is moving on this.
The English are
So it's
up there.
prime real estate for turbines.
Yes, oh,
absolutely.
yeah,
They all have to
absolutely.
be connected together.
I see.
They have to be connected with the shore at any
Well,
rate.
basically, yeah, they don't.
And so this
but they
substation-
connect them together to bring them to
Yeah,
shore.
and this substation is gathering the electricity. It's probably boosting the voltage quite a lot.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Now, for anybody who wants to know, the reason for that is because the loss in electricity is a loss of voltage over a distance, and the amount of voltage you lose is relative to the distance in the wire, which means that if you start at 12 volts and you're losing a volt every 10 feet, that means that if your electric line is 120 feet long,
You're out of power.
you're out of power. But if you start at 32 volts on the same line,
Exactly.
at the end of 120 feet, you've got 120 volts. So you're losing a very small portion of the very large voltage.
Bingo.
So you jack the voltage up for transmission, and then at the other end, you reduce it.
down again.
And that's, what transmission lines are all about, and what, the way these things look. Okay, should we go on, Tom?
Let's move along.
Okay, our next item
This
is
is
from
an interesting
Bloomberg.
article, too.
Yeah, it is.
This is from Bloomberg?
This is from Bloomberg.
Yeah.
What do you got for a title on this?
Green ammonia.
Green ammonia.
Green ammonia made
This
with
is
wind
exciting.
is the future of fertilizer at Siemens.
Isn't that exciting?
Really?
Green ammonia?
Well, it's not
colored
visually green, it's green manufacturing.
I see. Okay.
And what this says is Siemens AG is building a plant near Oxford which makes ammonia by electrolysis instead of through the traditional reaction that is fed by fossil fuels. If fed by idled renewable power plants, the process would make emissions-free fertilizer used by farmers everywhere. Now, clearly, we've heard, and anybody who's listened to this program is probably aware of the fact that if a wind turbine is turning and there's too much power on the electric lines, the line operator can tell it to shut down, because otherwise
Which
something.
unfortunately they're doing it.
They are doing that. And the same thing is true of solar. So what is happening here is they're saying, why would we shut down these plants when we can do something with the extra power
Bingo.
by putting a load on? Because these high power times only happen when there's not a lot of demand for power. So create a demand artificially. You could create hydrogen, but of course hydrogen has got the ability to migrate right through a piece of steel. So,
you
you
it's
can't hard to store for any period of time. But if you make ammonia out of this, you can do things. And one thing that is really exciting about this is, and you wouldn't want this to be done in people's homes, but you could do it in industrial sites and possibly other large sites. You can actually burn ammonia.
Yes. Yeah,
And
it's
which
just
means that
fine.
you could use this stuff to heat
As
buildings.
fuel.
Yeah, you could use it to power cars. And during the Second World War, when there was a shortage of gasoline in Belgium, they were using ammonia to power buses.
cars.
No kidding.
Yeah, and ammonia, when it burns, what do you get? What are the byproducts? One of them is nitrogen.
Yeah.
Well, 80% of the atmosphere is made of
goes back
nitrogen.
into the air.
It just goes back into the air. Nobody notices the difference.
other one's water.
The other one is water. Is this a problem? And those are the only products you get. So You could use this for all kinds of things where people are currently using fossil fuels.
Absolutely.
So you're
This
making
opens up a whole
ammonia.
new door.
It does. You're making ammonia using power that you could get for free almost because it's during low demand periods. And then use it during the daytime when the power demand is high to manufacture electricity. They're talking about using it as fertilizer. Yeah,
Well,
that's
yeah, it's a big time fertilizer.
a big time fertilizer.
They don't go pouring ammonia on the ground.
I think there's better uses for ammonia than fertilizer, and there's better ways to fertilize, honestly. But there it is, from Bloomberg. There you got it.
Well, one of the, reading between the lines here, one of the things that they're saying is the traditional way of making ammonia is very energy intensive.
Yes.
They're basically taking a cheap feedstock, which is air, okay, and water, okay, and they're heating it very hot and putting it under pressure in these vessels that look like chimneys that were designed 100 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And it's very energy intensive.
And this is an alternative.
This is definitely an alternative.
Using power, which is basically,
Using free power.
it might even appear at a negative cost, which
Yeah.
means that if you can use that power, they pay you for it to
Yeah.
take it, if you're buying it wholesale. So this is a different world that we're in from what a lot of people think it is.
It's so much different, a lot of us can't even conceive.
Yeah, it's hard. I think we should go on to our last item. I do want to mention what Larry is doing before we end this show.
This is the last guy. Well, with this, we've already talked about this, only it was a different company.
Yeah.
Mitsubishi Motors admits falsifying fuel economy.
Yeah, I heard that.
Man, this is from the BBC. Mitsubishi Motors has admitted falsifying fuel economy test data for more than 600,000 vehicles, fortunately not as many as VW did. The inaccurate tests involved 157,000 of its own brand light passenger cars and 468,000 vehicles produced for Nissan. The problem was uncovered after Nissan pointed out inconsistencies in emissions data.
Well, what these guys were doing was overinflating the tires
I heard that.
so that they were getting better results.
This is ridiculous, and every car company, apparently, with one or two exceptions, has been caught doing
Somebody's
this.
been playing games in almost every
Every
company.
case,
Yep.
they're a bunch of, really, it's kind of mind blowing to think of it, but every one of these organizations, with exceptions, is a cheat, and it's cheating us. So much for
really.
that. If we can go on from that, I'd like to introduce Larry to everybody.
Well,
Yes,
there he is.
thank you.
Larry has
It's only
got
been
a
an interesting, entertaining half hour, I'll tell you that.
full hour.
My brain is about to explode.
Yeah, we do that every week. We go home, our heads pop, and then we settle in.
Would you like me to tell you a little bit about what
tell
you have
me.
a couple of minutes?
You've
We've got
got
2
about
minutes.
2 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
2
the.
minutes and 31 seconds.
Thank you for both having me here. It's been
Yeah.
thoughtful, and I've enjoyed being part of the panel. Thank you. Yeah, I'm the executive director of the Sustainable Energy Funding Program. We're a 501c3 charitable organization that's developed a network of investors who we funnel into investing in 3 primary areas. One is renewable energy, the other is energy efficiency, and the other is sustainable design. And as a nonprofit organization, we can bring affordable, flexible financing to other nonprofit organizations in cities, towns, counties, and states. And we're involved in a variety of different projects around the country. Some are where we're looking to build energy efficient hospice centers. We're looking to do workforce housing in certain places where we actually build and construct the workforce housing and put it on our books, so to speak, as opposed to the community's books. So we can create those kind of
say workforce housing?
workforce housing. Workforce housing, generally speaking, is housing that's made available to people who are working, but in order to attract and keep workers local, we provide a mechanism in which the rents are slightly reduced.
Okay.
So that they're for school teachers, firefighters, police officers, and other folks that are doing work in the area that are not able to live as close to their work as they may like to be, as they may like. So the idea being it enables them to live more closer to where they
Closer
work,
to work.
reduces their commute time, and reduces their cost of living.
Now,
That's just one. The other thing we're doing, and looking at a proposal in New York State to actually, on behalf of a community in New York State, is buying a hydro facility, renovating the hydro facility, and then providing power to the behind the meter power to
Okay.
that locality. And what that's going to do is going to radically reduce the cost of energy to that community and therefore make them more attractive to do business in.
All right,
And
now
reduce the cost to residents.
we're going to have a full hour of this, and I don't know if it's going to be this week or next, but Larry will be
Yeah, I'm
on
very
for
happy to.
full
Thank you
hour,
for having me.
and that'll be on Channel 8, I think.
Energy Week
Extra, that's
Is
right.
that what it is? That what it's
That's
called?
what it is.
Extra.
That's what it is.
Read all
So
about
we'll
it.
say goodbye to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you
And,
thank you for having me.
yeah.
Very thoughtful.
Wave to the people.
Wave to the people.
Thank you.
Strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still.